Today, we're diving deep into one of the most shocking geopolitical turns in Northern Europe. Putin's Baltic nightmare has finally come true, and Denmark is taking control in a way that Russia never anticipated. The Baltic Sea, once seen as a stable yet tense area, has now become the center of a quiet but powerful confrontation that's shaking the region's balance. This isn't just a story of ships and borders. It's about influence, strategy, and control over one of the world's most vital maritime gateways. For years, Russia has tried to strengthen its presence in the Baltic Sea, building up its navy and asserting dominance near its borders with Finland, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. But now, the dynamics have completely shifted. Denmark, a small nation by size but a major player in NATO and European security, has taken decisive steps that are effectively limiting Russia's reach. This new situation is something Moscow feared for decades, being boxed in by NATO on all sides, especially in waters that connect directly to St. Petersburg and the heart of Russian trade. Denmark's actions didn't come out of nowhere. They're the result of long-term planning, intelligence sharing, and growing cooperation with its NATO allies. Over the past few months, Danish naval forces have increased patrols through the Danish Straits, the narrow passage that connects the North Sea to the Baltic. This is no ordinary waterway. It's the lifeline for Russian ships heading to and from the Baltic ports. By tightening control here, Denmark has gained a strategic advantage that cuts deep into Moscow's trade and defense logistics. What makes this move so significant is that Denmark doesn't need to fire a single shot. By simply enforcing stricter maritime monitoring, tightening environmental regulations, and coordinating with the European Union on shipping policies, Copenhagen has effectively placed a political and logistical chokehold on Russia's Baltic operations. Every Russian vessel now faces tougher scrutiny, longer delays, and limited maneuvering space. Meanwhile, the Baltic states Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania are watching closely. They've always been on the front line of Russian pressure, but now they see Denmark's control as a shield of protection. NATO's presence in the region has been quietly reinforced, with Denmark leading several joint exercises aimed at securing sea routes and strengthening communication networks. This is all part of a bigger picture where Western unity is growing stronger, while Russia's options are shrinking. Putin's nightmare scenario was always the idea of being surrounded by NATO on every side, cut off from key maritime routes, and isolated diplomatically. That's now becoming a reality. After Finland and Sweden joined NATO, the Baltic Sea practically became a NATO lake, and Denmark's control of the entry point makes this even more decisive. No matter how powerful Russia's navy is, it can't escape the fact that its ships must pass through waters controlled by NATO nations to access the Atlantic. Inside Russia, this development has sparked deep frustration. The Kremlin has tried to downplay the issue, calling Denmark's actions routine and within expected parameters. But behind closed doors, analysts in Moscow know this is a serious setback. The once free, flowing maritime routes for Russian exports, especially oil, gas, and military supplies, are now under the shadow of Western oversight. Every movement, every shipment, every submarine now risks being monitored or delayed. For Denmark, this is not just a tactical win but a statement of leadership. Historically, Denmark has played a quiet role in European defense, but now, with tensions rising, it's becoming a visible front-line defender of Western interests. By securing the Danish Straits, Copenhagen has sent a clear message. Europe will not allow Russia to manipulate or threaten its northern neighbors anymore. This move has boosted Denmark's standing in NATO and within the European Union. The Baltic Sea has become more militarized than ever before. Russia continues to move warships around Kaliningrad, its heavily fortified exclave between Poland and Lithuania. But even that region is becoming more isolated. NATO's radar coverage, air defense systems, and naval presence make it difficult for Russia to operate without being tracked. Denmark's role in coordinating surveillance has made the region far less accessible for Russian maneuvers. As a result, Moscow's strategy in the Baltic has had to change. Instead of projecting power outward, Russia is now focusing on defending what it already controls. The country's navy is stretched thin, trying to cover multiple fronts from the Black Sea and Arctic to the Pacific, and now the Baltic. The pressure on resources and logistics is enormous. And with Western sanctions continuing to choke the Russian economy, maintaining this level of military readiness is becoming unsustainable. Denmark's leadership in this shift has caught many by surprise. Most people expected bigger nations like Germany or the United Kingdom to take the lead in the Baltic. But Denmark's geography gives it unmatched leverage. The narrow straits, the Great Belt, the Little Belt, and the Øresund are all under Danish or joint Danish, Swedish control. Whoever controls these waters can effectively decide who enters or leaves the Baltic. This fact, combined with modern naval technology and NATO intelligence, has made Denmark a central figure in the region's security puzzle. This new reality also changes the balance for the entire European continent. Energy routes, trade corridors, and military planning are all being recalculated. Russia's reliance on its Baltic ports, especially St. Petersburg and Kaliningrad, has become a vulnerability. Any future conflict or escalation could see Denmark and NATO cutting off Russian naval access, completely, something that would paralyze much of Moscow's northern strategy. In recent statements, Danish officials have emphasized that their goal isn't to provoke Russia, but to ensure stability and security in the region. However, from Moscow's perspective, this looks like an aggressive encirclement. Russian state media has accused Denmark of acting as an American puppet, claiming that NATO is preparing to lock Russia inside the Baltic. While these claims may sound exaggerated, the reality is that Denmark's influence has never been greater. Across Europe, analysts are now calling this Denmark's quiet revolution in defense policy. The country is investing heavily in new naval systems, drones, and intelligence capabilities. It's also strengthening alliances with Sweden and Finland to create a seamless security network across the northern seas. Together, these nations are reshaping the strategic landscape in ways that Russia can no longer control. For Putin, this is a humiliating twist. For years, he tried to use energy politics, propaganda, and military intimidation to divide Europe. But instead, his actions have united NATO like never before. The invasion of Ukraine triggered a wave of military buildup across Europe, and now the Baltic Sea has become the symbol of Western unity. Denmark, with its small size but powerful position, has turned into one of the key gatekeepers of that unity. Economically, this has ripple effects as well. Shipping companies are rerouting vessels, insurance costs for Russian ships are skyrocketing, and the once busy trade routes through the Baltic are becoming more restricted. European nations are also exploring new energy routes that bypass Russian waters entirely. All of this further weakens Moscow's economic leverage over the continent. The Russian Navy, while still formidable, is beginning to show signs of strain. Many of its older vessels require maintenance that can't easily be done under sanctions. Fuel shortages and limited access to western parts have left parts of the fleet grounded. In contrast, Denmark and its allies are modernizing at record speed, adding advanced surveillance, anti-submarine systems, and drones that can detect any unauthorized movement in the Baltic. Public opinion in Denmark is also strongly supportive of these actions. The country's citizens understand that their geographic position gives them responsibility as well as power. They've seen what Russia's aggression has done in Ukraine, and they're determined to ensure that the Baltic never becomes a theater of war again. That determination has translated into strong political will and bipartisan backing for defense measures. But despite the strength of this coalition, no one in Europe is taking this lightly. Everyone knows that Russia, even when cornered, remains unpredictable. The Kremlin could respond through hybrid tactics, cyber attacks, disinformation, or covert naval operations. Denmark and its allies are preparing for those possibilities, strengthening cyber defenses and investing in counterintelligence. As the tension rises, international observers are warning that the Baltic Sea could become a new flashpoint for global security. What used to be a relatively calm maritime region is now a chessboard where every move matters. Denmark's control may be defensive, but it also places the country at the center of a geopolitical storm. One wrong move, one miscalculation, could have consequences that ripple across the entire NATO alliance. Still, the general mood among European leaders is one of quiet confidence. They believe that as long as they remain united, Russia will not risk direct confrontation. The Baltic Sea, now effectively under NATO's watch, stands as a powerful deterrent. It sends a message that the era of unchecked Russian expansion is over. Looking ahead, Denmark is planning even deeper cooperation with its Baltic neighbors. Joint naval drills, intelligence sharing, and coordinated defense planning are all part of the next phase. There's also talk of expanding underwater surveillance systems to monitor submarine movement, a move that would further tighten control over the region. Putin's dream of dominating the Baltic has turned into his worst nightmare. The sea that once offered Russia a route to Europe has now become a barrier guarded by NATO allies. Denmark, a nation once overlooked in great power politics, now holds one of the most strategic positions on the map. It's a stunning reversal of fortune and a warning to Moscow that its aggressive tactics have only backfired. As this new balance takes shape, the world watches closely. The Baltic Sea, once just a geographic feature, has become a symbol of Europe's strength and unity. And Denmark's role in making that happen has cemented its place as one of the most important players in modern European security. So when we say Putin's Baltic nightmare has come true, we mean more than just a military setback. It's the collapse of a vision, the vision of a dominant Russia controlling the northern seas. Instead, Denmark's quiet but firm leadership has reshaped the region into a fortress of cooperation, stability, and deterrence. The story is still unfolding, the seas remain tense, and the political games continue. But for now, one thing is certain: the balance of power in the Baltic has shifted permanently. Denmark has taken control, and for Russia, there may be no easy way back. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on this developing story. Stay tuned, because the Baltic situation is far from over, and the next chapter could redefine Europe's security for decades to come.